Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining me as ever, it's Henry Hill. And without Michael McCubbin, we've got a real treat for you today. It's Patrick Van Straten here for his final ever Continental Club.
Yep.
Sad times. Pat, I think you were on the first ever Continental Club.
Yeah.
With Guillaume Balaguer. I was telling these guys about it last
week.
week.
Was that what that was?
How things have gone wrong.
Oh, yeah. He had some opinions, didn't he?
Did he?
Well, you know, Guillaume Balaguer has a great career talking about his best friend Messi, who definitely tells him all his innermost thoughts. I think that we've upgraded since then. There's a much higher content to horse ratio, I would say.
Are you sad, though, your final ever Continental Club? You were a regular on this show before you became too big
one of
for
the
us.
originators of this show, I would say. Yeah, sure. Why not?
You always like this show.
I do like this show. I think that this is genuinely one of the most knowledgeable shows on YouTube. I think that when it's you two and McCubbin, there's an incredibly high level of knowledge across European football, which is, I think, almost unique. In a world of kind of football content, which is mostly about opinions and how loud you can shout them. I think that this is a place where you can actually get informed content.
Pat, it's a lovely thing to say. I'm tearing up.
Yeah,
Henry, how are you?
I do want to apologise to the Portuguese league. They continuously get overlooked.
Yeah,
because we can't pronounce. I find it very difficult to pronounce.
Gil Vicente, Casapia, all those little small clubs. Maybe one day. Pat, it's really great actually to have you here for the last show. Just quickly, a Continental Club favourite from over the years has just been announced as the new Besiktas manager.
Oh.
Do you know who it is?
Burak Yilmaz.
It's Burak Yilmaz.
Really?
Yeah. He was caretaker for a bit, I think.
You know, his last season in the Netherlands, Fortuna Sittard, he still scored like 9 goals.
Yeah.
What a
Really?
legend. And now
he's got hair.
He does.
He was just like Scott Browning it the whole time, just shaving it small. He's got hair.
Well, that's. I feel like that's like Turkish supremacy, though. I feel like Turkey has like a bloodline that specialises in incredible hair.
Yeah. Maybe he just returned to Turkey, got it done, ready for his caretaker role, and now he's got a Besiktas job.
I've got to say, when I said that I was leaving, I got a message as well from somebody whose screen name on Twitter was Freddie Guarin.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, I have not heard this name in 5 years. And in the 5 years before that, I heard it every day.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Did you know that one of your favourites, Alvaro Recoba, he's just taken over Nacional in Uruguay?
Really? That's a great job
for
him.
That's his first job.
That's an outrageous first job. What a stressful life for him.
Henry, look at you dropping the manager.
There's just so many random ex-pros that have just suddenly, like, I saw Tevez as manager of Independiente.
Is he?
And not doing very well, by all accounts.
Didn't think he was the manager type. Apparently, pretty tricky character at different points.
The most reliable man.
Exactly. Loves golf on that big golf trip he did when he was at Man City. Right, today we are doing something a bit different, to be honest. We've never really done this before. It's going to be quite chatty. It's going to be quite free-flowing. We're basically going to pick the best player at every age between the years of 16 and 35. I think it'll be very busy in the middle, obviously less 16-year-olds and less 35-year-olds. But we're going to dive straight in with the 16-year-olds. I mean, I found Luka Vuskovic, who's just joined Spurs, I believe, but Lamine Yamal, Henry, probably has to be number one.
It is, but Luka Vuskovic, he's 16 years old, centre-back for Hajduk Split. He's 6'4" already, which is absurd. I'm trying to think at school if there was anyone remotely over 6 foot. Well, yeah, there would have been at 16.
There's also some genetic freak in every
He looked. The picture of him with. You just call him a genetic freak.
No, but did he not? Did you not have someone at school that was like 6'2" when they were 12?
Fair enough. But no, fair play to Vuskovic. He's played almost as much football at club level than Yamal at this point. But I don't think you can overlook a guy coming out of La Masia becoming the youngest Spanish player ever and scoring goal for Spain. Like, Vuskovic could go on to have a great career for club and country, but in terms of who's gone out the gates quickest at this point, it's probably Yamal.
Yeah, you like Yamal, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, Yamal is pretty much starting for a club who are, as we will come on to later, currently the best club in their division, and one of the better clubs in Europe. Like, I mean, admittedly, as you were saying, I think their bench is pretty thin, and it tends to be that when you go through a period of financial disaster, your youngsters start to get chances. So he is coming along at exactly the right time, but he looks like a Barcelona player. We've said that about a few guys, but I don't really see anybody competing with him at this age in this category.
No, he's absolutely brilliant. Fair enough. Right, we'll move on to the 17-year-olds. There's Endrick, who I've got to admit I haven't watched that much of. There's also Ben Doak, who plays for Liverpool. Again, not really being used that much. But Warren Zaire-Emery, is the obvious shout here. Like Lamine Yamal, I think he's been brilliant for PSG this season. Even in that 4-1 thrashing at St James's Park, I think he really held his head up very high in that game. They were completely overrun in midfield with Ugarte and him being left very exposed by Enrique's tactics. But I think he's been very good in the Champions League in particular for a number of years, really, since he was about 16. I mean, I know he's only 17 now, but yeah, looks really promising.
Yeah, he's really gone from being... last year I was always confused when PSG kept throwing him on into these difficult moments and difficult games because he was so young. I thought it was a lot of responsibility to shoulder. But actually, like you said, against Newcastle, one of the best players on the pitch. He's clearly that experience and time around the first team. And actually, a lot of change in the first team. Certainly in the midfield, new players coming in. He's suddenly a bit more of a regular feature, sort of a constant in that side. I think he embodies everything that Al Khalifi wants for the club, like a local Parisian sort of wearing the shirt. So you're right, he's brilliant. Endrick hasn't actually scored as many goals as people think. It's exciting to see what will happen when he goes to Real Madrid, but it's going to take a few more years to see the very best of Endrick. Whereas Zaire Emery, I think he's got an argument to be playing week in, week out for PSG at the moment if you look at the other midfield options. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't expect that someone like Fabian Ruiz would still be struggling for minutes. Vitinha was dropped in that big game as well. So happy with Zaire Emery. Right, 18. It gets a little bit more interesting. Matthias Tel, Vitor Roque, who's now joining Barcelona in January, which is good news for them with their injury crisis. We've got Youssoufa Moukoko, Rico Lewis, Desiree Doué, Arda Güler, Antonio Nusa, who I really like the look of, who's a Norwegian winger, but probably isn't good enough for number one. I mean, Pat, Matthias Tel, probably?
I feel like Moukoko has done more.
Mm-hmm.
Has played more consistently, has played... The thing about Tel is he's got a lot of sub-minutes at the end of games for an incredibly dominant side. And don't get me wrong, in those minutes, he's shown incredible quality. His touch is amazing, pretty two-footed. The ability to come into a side like Bayern Munich and not look out of place, especially now they are turning into more of a Tuchel possession side, that is an underrated quality. But Moukoko has played up front for Dortmund more consistently, has probably done more there, has put up numbers that even if he just maintained them for the rest of his career would qualify as on the edge of elite, I would say. I don't know. It's always extremely hard to kind of gauge between these guys because you don't have a huge sample size. So I go for the guy who just has more of a sample size, which in this case is Moukoko.
Sure. I think recency bias, I mean, anyone that's watched this season, Moukoko is struggling for game time. Tel making impact at Bayern. That's probably why I'd go towards Tel. But would you give a shout to someone like Rico Lewis, Henry?
I think so. I mean, I thought there'd be more 18-year-olds, actually. You've used Transfermarkt.
I use Transfermarkt, yeah.
To get kind of majority of these players. A great source of knowledge.
It's really helped us throughout our time at Football Daily.
It's true. I kind of with Pat on this with Moukoko, but I mean Rico Lewis has played a lot of football and it's going to be harder for him because he's a defender relative to the other two. Like the other two are having game-winning moments. Rico Lewis, to be getting the amount of minutes he has, to have encouraged Guardiola over the last few years to send Cancelo away, like that is a huge sort of tip to the hat to Lewis. So I think he's pushing these guys close. Like Moukoko's probably played a few more minutes, but I don't think there's much in it between him and Rico Lewis. It just feels weird for me to say Rico Lewis is the best 18-year-old around right now because in my head that just wasn't true. But when you suddenly see the list, I'm like, oh, maybe he is. Maybe he could be. But yeah, Desiree Doué, he's awesome too. Arda Güler, I think we need to see more of him at Real Madrid this year. The rest of them... You know what? I'd say Rico Lewis. Why not?
Fair enough. I mean, the fact that he's able to play at right back, the fact he can play in midfield as well, that's pretty promising and making an impact for a Pep side. Pep has trusted academy graduates to a certain degree, but Cole Palmer was sold quite early on in his Man City career, and Phil Foden's a bit of an exception. James McAtee spent time out on loan. Yeah, I think Rico Lewis has been pretty impressive, to be honest, in his limited time there. I'm going to go with Tel, Moukoko, Rico Lewis. We don't have to agree on all of them. Let's move on to the 19-year-olds. Now, a bit more competition in this one. Gavi, Evan Ferguson, who must have only just turned 19, I think, because I've been thinking he was 18 for years. But anyway, Romeo Lavia, Antonio Silva, Scalvini of Atalanta as well, who's broken into the Italy setup, Usman Diomande, who's being very highly talked about, the Sporting CP centre-back, Garnacho, Enciso, Lewis Hall, Wilfred Nonto, who I didn't know was 19. I thought he was way older than that.
He's not one of the best 19-year-olds.
No, but worth a shout
talent, though.
Stefan Bajcetic as well, I think it's looked really promising when he's played. But Pat, Gavi, Evan Ferguson, Lavia, for you?
I think this is a really interesting point in the kind of age scale because I think the guys we're looking at below this age don't tend to be guys who make their team better. They tend to be guys who are very promising. So I think that, Tel is a downgrade on Kane. Dortmund, obviously, at the moment, don't think that Moukoko is part of their best attack. Whereas once you're starting to get to the 19-year-olds, some of these players are players who are actually an upgrade on the guys around them. Evan Ferguson is extremely rare. To be as physically complete as he is, and to be one of the better centre forwards in such a tough league at his age, is like vanishingly uncommon. It
I want
really,
him
really
to
is.
start more.
I think Gavi's more talented than him, if I want to put it that way. But I also think that Gavi, I don't know, because he's good at a lot of things, in a way he sort of stands out less, if that makes sense. Like, you can use Gavi in a variety of ways and he'll give you use in all those different positions. But Evan Ferguson is playing in what is arguably the most important position in football, and he is doing it to a high level. And if you put Evan Ferguson in Chelsea, they'd be better. If you put him in, I don't really know what's going to happen with Haaland, but if you put him in Man United, they'd be better. There are a lot of teams, very good teams, that would be improved by the presence of Evan Ferguson. Got an excellent number of goals last season. What was it, 11 goal involvements or something in about 1,200 minutes or something in the end? Like, really, really, like, those are elite numbers. So I don't know. I think I go Evan Ferguson here, just again because what he has accomplished is extremely solid. With Gavi, I feel like we can bring in like the advanced numbers and stuff, but it requires a little bit more of an argument to be made.
Sure. Henry, you on the same page? Would you go Ferguson, Gavi?
The best
like
players
Barcelona
score the
fans
goals.
might be quite angry.
Who
Yeah,
cares? They always are.
it's difficult. I'm not someone who like goes, oh well, Gavi's playing for Spain, and therefore, like, you can't be judged too much by your nationality and kind of all of this. I will say for Scalvini, if you look at the young players we've mentioned, Scalvini is probably the most exciting teenage centre half in the world at the moment. Playing week in, week out. I mean, Vuskovic is the only other one we've mentioned, and
Diamond.
Well, I think Scalvini has the right to be kind of like ahead of him at this point. I think what he's doing, breaking into that Atalanta side, who are defensively a much more astute this season under Gasperini, and the fact, yeah, I think he's just such a presence at the back. I think he's going to get a really big move at some point. We're starting to see his name week in, week out in the gossip columns being linked with places. He can dribble. I've not seen many young centre halves time their tackles as well as him. From what I've seen, like the way he dives in a little bit, but it's pretty remarkable that the success rate that he's managing to accomplish, and he can dribble out with the ball too. He's pretty much a modern centre half in that regard. I think he's got a massive future. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Scalvini as like a defender, but yeah, probably Gavi as the all-round kind of best 19-year-old. But yeah, Scalvini for being a defender, best centre-half in the teenage age group for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think Antonio Silva deserves the shout-out in that category as well. It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I have been really impressed with Alejandro Garnacho. He's probably not as good as Gavi or Evan Ferguson, but I feel like every time I watch him for Man United, like, he is making things happen, which for a club which is probably the most talked about or second most talked about club in world football in terms of the pressure on him, I think he's been pretty impressive for Man United. But I'm personally going to give it to Gavi. I feel like he's the undroppable member of those 19-year-olds, really, or the closest to undroppable at least. Right, this gets really tasty because there's a crop of amazing 20-year-old footballers right now. Bellingham, Musiala, Pedri, Camavinga, Wirtz, Xavi Simons, and then Lesso, Højlund, Balde, Colwill, Wahi, Udogie, Lukaba, Elliott, Ansu Fati, Sesko. The list goes on and on.
Some pretty generous inclusions there.
Yeah,
I would say
but
so.
I mean, Bellingham, Musiala, Pedri, Gavi, Camavinga. I didn't mean to say Gavi. Pedri, Camavinga, Wirtz, Simons. That is a pretty incredible crop.
Where do you want to go, Pat?
Henry, where are you guys at?
I'm going to discount Pedri, I think, just because of
He's so injured.
Sure.
Like, you look at this season, under 2 full 90s, whereas Bellingham, key player for one of the best sides in the world. I might make the case for Musiala, though.
I was hoping someone would.
Musiala, I think, is truly special. I mean, like, he really does stand out. I think he's the best attacker at Bayern. He certainly was last season. This year, maybe it'll be more of a toss-up. But to have essentially pushed Thomas Müller out, who is like one of the great products of their academy, one of the great Bayern players of all time, to have pushed him out and just said, like, I'm going to be the undroppable player here. He's a guy who maintains nearly an 85% pass accuracy while playing in the most congested part of the pitch. He's a guy who Bellingham has added this tool this season, you know, where you'll see him dribble, you know, through a ton of tackles and create a chance out of nothing. Musiala's been doing that for a while. And 22 goal involvements in the league last season in a 34-game league is absolutely staggering. Like that's just elite performance. And Bellingham, I think, is making that leap up now. But Bellingham for a while has been a very, very good central midfielder. And now he is turning into what looks like a very, very good kind of number 10. What he ends up being, I think, is still a little bit more of a toss-up. So again, super talented, but Musiala is playing in his correct position. He's doing it to an elite standard. He's doing it for one of the best clubs in the world. I just don't think you can knock his performance in any way. He seems to be the complete package.
Yeah. And he scored the goal that won Bayern the Bundesliga last year in a table and in a title race that they didn't really look at it for long periods. I'd probably go with Musiala as well. But I mean, Henry, what do you think?
I agree. You know what? I think if Florian Wirtz hadn't had that serious ACL injury and had a big move to, I know his numbers, it might only be like 1 goal, 3 assists this season for Bayer Leverkusen, but his actual creative numbers all round are staggering, and he's doing that in a team that has tons of creativity elsewhere. He's still picking up huge numbers despite the fact that like their entire front three are seeing lots of the ball this term. So I think Wirtz is super special, and I really think that City or something like that will go in for him at some point when they need to get more creativity in midfield. But yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think at the moment Musiala is better than Bellingham. I think he is. But listen, we're splitting hairs on this. It's really tight. It's not a case because I know people go, "How can you say it's not Bellingham? Look at what he's doing." But at the same time, like what Musiala has done in his entire time at Bayern Munich, which will probably not get as appreciated as much as whatever Bellingham does at Real Madrid. I think it's remarkable, and the Bundesliga is just stronger than.
He also had the disadvantage of coming in at Bayern at 18, and he already looks like one of the best players pretty much from his debut. Like Bellingham is that 2 years older. I know he's still ridiculously young, but he's had a bit of time at Dortmund, growing.
Just quickly, I think Udogie as like a left back is just unreal, and he was wicked at Udinese for the last 2 years. And the fact that he's gone from being a flying left wing back into just like a really solid left back, and that sounds like not like a big change, but it is really. He's gone, and for him to be that impressive and not even be an issue for Spurs at all, and solve a position they've just had endless problems with, I think it's amazing. Yeah.
I also think Xavi Simons in a few years could get into this conversation with Bellingham and Musiala. I do think he's that talented. Right, let's move on to the 21-year-olds. Moses Caicedo, Gvardiol, Nuno Mensch, Jeremy Doku, Elise, Nico Williams, less so, Barcola down there, Gravenberch, Adeyemi. I mean, Henry, why don't you kick off? Who's your number one of the 21-year-olds? It's actually not as good a crop as the 20-year-olds.
It's not. It's not. By the way, Shirky, not in the top 20.
Fair enough.
Last time I got a lot of abuse for saying Shirky wasn't very good.
Shirky's he was on the list for the 20-year-olds.
No.
He was good.
20. I think Gvardiol is the obvious choice in my mind, just because of everything he's done so far in his career. But this is Continental Club, so I feel like that would be slightly dull. I think Nico Williams is excellent. I think he's really, really strong. I love everything he does for Athletic. He's not really an Athletic Club player in many regards. He's something so different to come through their academy, and he's lightning on the ball. And I love Inaki Williams just for his sort of endurance as in that side. But Nico Williams is just a step up for me on him. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard. Doku's been excellent, but he hasn't actually played tons of football. Elise, lightning every time he gets the ball too. But I'm going to go for Nico Williams on this one outside of the Premier League.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Moises Caicedo has been exceptional for Chelsea yet, to be totally honest. I put it on Twitter and took a lot of heat for it, but I just don't think he has been particularly exceptional. Gvardiol's, I think, been very solid for Man City. Nuno Mensch, who I was really excited about a couple of years ago, but he's had quite a few injury issues recently. I think Michael Elise, similar sort of thing, incredibly talented, but has had a few injuries. I'll probably go with Gvardiol for now. Pat, just quickly on the 21-year-olds.
My instinct is it might end up being Doku, honestly. I'd probably go Caicedo. I agree. I agree that I don't think he's been that great this season, but I think he was playing a really hard position last year that you don't see a lot of 21-year-olds excel at. He did it to a way higher standard than somebody who's not that far away from him in age, Romeo Lavia. And I do think that Chelsea midfield is going to be pretty amazing in the long run. Like, it's going to be hard to play against. But yeah, I don't know. You could pick anyone from this category.
Yeah. Weak 21-year-olds, get your act together. 22-year-olds is back on form, though, guys. Saka, Rodrigo, Kvaratskhelia, Martinelli. For some reason, I always think Kvaratskhelia is older than that. Martinelli. Yeah, he does. Enzo Fernandez, Saliba, Szoboszlai, Alphonso Davies. Like, this is a joke of a list. Kubo, maybe lucky to get mentioned amongst them as well.
Quite a lot of guys.
But, I mean, I think Saka's probably the most complete at this stage out of all of them. I mean, Henry, you're sort of umming and ahhing over there.
It's tough.
It's tough, you know.
Who else would you put in there?
In the top is Saliba, and maybe I think Enzo Fernandez is a brilliant central midfielder. I really do.
It's difficult to compare, isn't it? Saka and Enzo Fernandez. It feels a bit silly.
Exactly. It is really hard. Like, I think Saka is the safe choice almost. It's not Rodrigo, and
Rodrigo's great.
It's not Martinelli. I don't think. God, it's difficult. It's difficult. I'm gonna go for Saliba. I just think he's a Rolls Royce of a centre half.
Fair. Pat, I'm going to put you under pressure. I don't just want your top one. I want your top three of the 22-year-olds.
I'll probably go Saka.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Davies is tempting, you know.
Oh, yeah, Davies is really tempting.
I'd probably go Saka.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Saliba.
Uh-huh.
That feels very biased, but I do think it is rare to have a centre-back who's starting at that age and has helped a club improve from kind of 5th, 6th best in the league to 2nd, 3rd. I mean, that's pretty astonishing stuff. Saka has, at different points in his career, been England's best player. He's been Arsenal's best player. Again, that's pretty astonishing.
Yeah,
looking at a guy who's at like kind of 25 goal involvements in the league at 21 last year. That's
he's great.
Unbelievable stuff. Rodrigo had a really breakout season last year, but probably needs to do it for a little bit longer to reach to kind of get in that conversation. So I might put Enzo Fernandez there next, just because. No, actually not Enzo Fernandez. I don't know. He was just playing in like non-leagues for quite a long time, and now he's playing for a non-club.
Well, maybe Davies then.
So I'll put Davies in because, you know, like won the Champions League, won the treble, like, and does have every physical ability you could want him to have and technical ability. Like, it would not surprise me if Davies moves on to another club and they just end up playing him as a winger, and he could easily be a kind of Gareth Bale story where somebody says, why did we turn this winger into a left back? Let's turn him back into a winger, and he becomes amazing. Seeing him destroy teams in the Champions League a couple of years ago, he's still 22.
With Kane, his link up this year has been unreal.
Has been really
back
good.
to his best.
He's special.
I give Szoboszlai a shout out as well. I don't think he's got the goals or assists to go to his level of performance this year for Liverpool. I think he's been really, really exceptional.
He's been fine.
But he's probably not in the top 3 conversation, but I just think he's been very good.
Ugarte.
Yeah, he's kind of lucky to
I have
make
a question about that. What's he doing here?
Well,
Guys,
he's very valuable on Transfermarkt.
Rubbish.
Right, 23-year-olds: Haaland, Vinicius Junior, Foden, Alvarez. Then we're getting to more interesting.
Vlahovic,
Jonathan David, Tonali.
Anthony.
Yeah, I wanted to give you guys options. Yeah, I mean Haaland, Vinicius Junior, Foden, Alvarez. Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys some options.
This is the maddest list of players I've ever heard in my life.
Henry.
Straight shootout, Haaland, Vinicius.
Yeah, it is a straight shootout.
I think Alvarez has been really good this year. I don't think he's a better player, but he's been very good this year.
Haaland scored 1,000 goals last year.
I agree. Just wanted him to get a shout out.
What is going on? No, come on. He gets enough shout outs. Everyone's
João Felix is ahead of a lot of the players on this list, I would say.
Yes, Vitinha.
How is he still only 23? That's the big question.
I've had obviously a great relationship with Vinicius Junior over the years, and I am sort of in love with him as a player. I just think he's incredible, and even in the Champions League, he had that goal ruled out for an offside by a hair, but it was still excellent. I get more excited by seeing Vinicius Junior than I get in. Look. What Haaland does to find space and score goals, and the rate of goals is relentless and ridiculous, and I've not seen a striker at his age quite like it. But as a player, as a full-rounded player who just gets me off my seat every time he's on the ball, for me it's Vinicius Junior. But really? Again, they serve different functions, so I don't really. It's difficult. I
was thinking that if I got offered Haaland for 200 million or Vinicius for 150, I still get Haaland for 200. I think
it depends what you need.
If you're a blanket team,
I think it's easier to find wingers than it is to find strikers.
Left wingers, there's a lot of depth there, isn't there?
I think that my one beef with Vinicius, and I agree, I would rather watch him. He's clearly one of the best players in the world. Is that we have seen wingers put up over 30, league goal involvements. Like we see Salah do it. Saka's got close to that. Hazard used to do it. I mean, Whereas what we've seen Haaland do, we haven't seen anyone do, really. Like, I mean, he's broken the Premier League goal scoring record. His career strike rate is staggering. Like, so
it's true.
He's kind of changing the game for a player of his age, whereas Vinicius looks like a really, really, really good player of his age. But we have seen wingers play at Vinicius's level. I don't know if we've ever seen a striker play at Haaland's level, except like peak Ronaldo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think we've seen a striker play at his level at his age.
At his age, definitely.
Apart from, different sorts of players. But you get into people like the original Ronaldo, who's like maybe the greatest player ever.
Yeah.
They do say.
They do. Speaking of players that, have performed at Vinicius Junior's level before, at 24, we've got Mbappe. I think he probably just has to be the answer to this. There is Osimhen, there is Rice, there's Rafa Leao, there's Odegaard.
There's Kolo Muani I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Alexis McAllister here. That feels like a Scottish like bias
To
coming in
clarify,
there where you're just
I
like,
do not
proud
think these
Scot,
players are at the
Alexis
same level. I was
McAllister.
just giving you guys some choice to think them through.
No, well, I appreciate it, but yes, Mbappe,
Hakpo.
I don't think
24 was quite good.
Yeah,
Moussa Diaby?
If it's so good, then why is Hakpo there?
Yeah, he
the
snuck in
answer
through the
is
back door.
Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah,
The
fair
answer is
enough.
Kylian
24, Kylian Mbappe. 25, Pat. Who takes your
This is
fancy
rubbish.
on 25?
This is
25 is not a good age.
An appalling list of players.
I mean, it's a pretty good list.
To clarify, we've got Fede Valverde, Bruno Guimaraes, and Nkunku, Rashford, Eder Militao, Trent. I'm going to stop at Trent.
Yeah, so a lot of players that are
Romero.
fine.
Gabriel.
At their best, it's Trent. At their best, it's
yeah,
Trent.
I think it's
But
Trent.
consistency, I'm tempted to give it to Bruno,
Really?
Bruno's amazing. Like, what more could Bruno do as a central midfielder? He was amazing at Lyon. He has helped Newcastle. He joined Newcastle, I think, when they were in the relegation zone.
Yeah.
And now they are actually currently playing like the best team in the country.
I think he's a remarkable player. It just feels wrong that he's the best 25-year-old in the world. But
I think it's Eder Militao.
no, come on.
He's a great
Seconded.
centre half.
Seconded.
Great second half. Second half. I mean, I'm not saying he's like one of the best centre halves in the world, but he from someone that people were like, Rudiger's going to go in there and just play next to Alaba. Like, I think Militao stepped up to become one of the most important figures for Real Madrid.
These cannot be the best 25-year-olds in the world.
It's really poor. Some years are really bad.
It's not Valverde anymore.
My God.
I guess it could be Bruno, but I'm sticking with my guns.
Fede Valverde is good at what he does. Running and striking the ball.
That qualification, though.
Yeah.
Like other people, he's amazing. And with this, he's amazing at what he does.
I think Eder
is Conor
Militao's
Gallagher.
stunning. I think he's a really good centre half.
He is good.
I
He is
liked
good.
the direction Nkunku was going as well before the injury. Let's see what he comes back in.
Yeah.
So
I think we should go Trent, personally. I think he's a more natural
You
fit.
can't have had
Rashford
that
is
much
still
grief in your
25.
career. You even made a tweet about Trent not being good enough this season the
He
other day.
hasn't been quite at his best this year, but a lot of people made a lot of good
people
points.
said
in
that
response.
last year.
But Trent at his best is like, I mean, he transcends his position.
It's like I
get that, but haven't seen it enough. And
Sure,
therefore,
I think that's fair.
I'll go for Militao.
Yeah, but he's also,
I know he's a centre
All
half.
right, we can agree to disagree.
He won everything
Militao,
at
Bruno,
quite young
and
age.
Trent. Let's move on from
I mean,
25.
we
It's
should
a
probably
curse
shout
year.
out Rashford as well, who is only 25 but has very consistently been an excellent player his whole career.
Yeah.
But second tier.
Bad the year before last and
Second
not great
tier.
this year, but anyway, it's only 9 games in. Right, 26. Again, not
Also
a
crap.
great year.
Rubbish.
Oh, come
Lautaro
on.
Martinez, Frankie de Jong, Ruben Diaz. This is better than 25, actually, looking at it. Gabriel Jesus, Barella, Maddison. Kim Min-jae.
Kaoru Mitoma.
Mitoma as well. Would he be...
No,
okay,
don't.
who is, in all seriousness,
Top.
Pat, your number 1 26-year-old?
If I go with look, if you look at actual kind of achievements, I think it's got to be probably Ruben Diaz or Lautaro Martinez. But if I go with my heart, as in like who is actually like the best footballer on this list,
Frankie de Jong.
it's Ousmane Dembele.
Really?
It's just not, though, is it?
It's Ousmane Dembele. He's more talented
It's
than
not.
every single player here.
I'm sorry, we can't.
This
can't
is day
disregard
2 of
Pedri.
Ousmane Dembele
You
loving.
can't disregard Pedri for being injured. Dembele is
I'm aware of
constantly
that.
injured.
I'm
Has
not.
got
I'm not actually giving you the answer, Dembele. I think probably I'll give you the sensible, boring answer because that's what you want.
I don't want it.
You want a home counties answer for a home counties boy, and I'll say Ruben Diaz. He's a Rolls Royce. He's phenomenal. I'm so bored of hearing people go on about Ruben Diaz, who I just think is one of a crop of very good centre backs at Man City.
I was going to say
Don't think
Lautaro Martinez.
don't think he's special.
So
Okay,
there we
fine.
go.
I think it's Frankie de Jong.
Oh yeah,
that's as wild an opinion as mine.
No, he's
no,
great.
it's not.
I think he was better. I think he was better at Ajax than
stinks.
he is now.
So
Probably, but he was pretty exceptional. Alex.
we were debating the other day about like best strikers in the world, and we said that Martinez is touching on like
superstar.
like
Yeah,
superstar
he was
status.
touching in the Kane.
Like
group.
he is an unbelievable forward. Apparently, he's going to extend his deal at Inter. I'd love to see it. So yeah, I think for me it's Lautaro Martinez.
I also, he's only playing for Spurs and it's only been 10 games, but I think Maddison, is playing really, really well at the moment. Really, really well.
Get out of here.
Right, 27. This is rubbish. The 27-year-old. Rodri, Sane, Coman. Ollie Watkins made it. Girassi made it.
Well, after 10
Onana,
games.
Pavard, Anguissa, Luca Hernandez. Mikel Merino was the fifth best option I could find.
This is mad.
It's probably Rodri.
It's between him and Sane. I think Sane is crazy. Crazy good. Pardon?
He's better.
He's better than Rodri.
Nah, Rodri. No, it's got to be Rodri.
It is
but I
Rodri,
mean,
but outside of the Premier League, it's 100% Sane. Like, when that guy is on top form,
Like this year.
he's crazy good. Like, he can score from everywhere. So
Yeah.
But
Nice
do
one.
you remember when we used to like bring stats into football though, and people would say football isn't played on a spreadsheet?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Rodri is like watching a spreadsheet.
Oh, I love Rodri.
I find him to be maybe the most boring footballer I've ever watched.
Is that with your Arsenal hat on?
Why? I don't have anything.
scores-
I don't have anything
he
against
scores
him.
some
He's
goals.
just like
I don't hate Man
the
City
key
at all.
player at your rival. I don't know.
I barely like for one season with the rivals. Like it's like I actually hate Chelsea and Man United. I've got nothing against City really. Like I don't have any issue with him at all. But like I used to really really love like Fernandinho. I used to love Yaya Toure. I didn't love Gareth Barry, but I respected him. Like, but Rodri, I can see that he's exceptional. He makes the right decisions all the time, but he doesn't. I do watch football to be entertained, and Rodri is like anti-entertainment because he just does.
Yeah, but
he's
amazing.
just sensible.
He's amazing at his job.
Is he
And
amazing?
City have quite clearly suffered when he's not played, and City are meant to be like this unbeatable
That's because their
machine.
squad behind him is
He's also just,
Garbo.
have you seen the size of him? He's absolutely massive. It always takes me.
Every time I said
Takes
this
my breath
yesterday,
away.
he tucks his shirt in, automatic disqualification.
Fair enough.
That is
Okay.
that is such like First World War nonsense.
Shout out Seru Girassi. Can you imagine having this guy on this list 6 months ago? Crazy.
Untuck that shirt.
Right, 28-year-olds. I hope everyone's enjoying this. I'm kind of enjoying it. But anyway.
I'm kind of enjoying
Right,
it.
we've got Grealish, we've got Kimmich, we've got João Palhinha, we've got Serge Gnabry, Skriniar, Sterling, Mike Maignan, Goretzka, Luke Shaw. Yeah, that's probably the top names.
Milinkovic-Savic.
Yeah.
My answer is Mike Maignan. I think he's the best keeper in the world. I love. Well, is he? Wait a minute. Do I think that? Let me just double check. Let me just double check.
Ter Stegen, Alisson.
I think it's between Kimmich.
good, though.
I think it's between Kimmich and Maignan. In all honesty,
Kimmich is not in a good moment, though.
I still think that when he's on song, like
Yeah.
Kimmich is just next level. I think he's better than Grealish. In all honesty. So yeah, but for me at the moment, in this moment in time, it's between Kimmich and Maignan. I think like for Maignan to have won like back-to-back league titles in Lille and AC Milan and been the main guy in both of those campaigns, to have reached the semi-final of the Champions League last year, like you can't deny the impact he's made on that squad. And if he ever is available, I think every club looking for a keeper at the very top level will go for him because he's that good. So for me, I'm going to go for Mike Maignan. And there's not any more opportunities to mention a keeper. So
Yeah.
Sterling.
I was going to go with Sterling as
It
well.
has to be Sterling, I think.
In
Does-
terms of
does it?
achievements.
Okay, of the players on this list, the only one
Kimmich.
who was also amazing 10 years ago is Luke Shaw, and he had about 6 years in between where he was rubbish. Whereas Sterling was amazing at 18 and has been amazing since, especially in the 17-18 season, I would say was the reason that Man City won the title. Like his achievements in the game, I think, are greater than anyone's here apart from Kimmich. And Kimmich, I don't know, like again, a really, really good player. But Sterling also this season has just been like unplayable.
Yeah.
In quite a bad side. I just love Raheem Sterling.
He's also
man.
had good international tournaments, whereas I don't think Kimmich ever has.
He's an amazing player.
Yeah,
Sterling.
I'm going to go with Sterling, but I can
Really
see your
underrated
argument for Mike
Premier League
Maignan.
player.
29. 29 is not a great year either, really. Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Marquinhos, Jacques Cancelo, Rodrigo de Paul, Andrew Robertson, John Stones. Yeah, it's actually okay. It's okay.
Stone's good.
Pat, who would be your number one?
Well, my one contribution to this script was to write Bruno Fernandes in this category.
Oh, nice.
It's Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah?
I think undeniably it's Bruno Fernandes. Like I look at the other players here, there are lots of good guys. Like Stones is good, but also has had long periods where he was not particularly fancied at Man City. Robertson has been an elite left back for quite a while, but Bruno Fernandes got like 30 goal involvements in the league in his first full season. Over the last 3 years, he's missed, I think, 4 Premier League games. He's got 62 goal involvements in that time. Last year he got 16, and actually XG put him at closer to 24. I don't know. Bruno Fernandes, I get that there are elements of his game that are annoying. Bernardo Silva in that sense, like pretty more reliable player, but I just think Bruno Fernandes is like he's the definition of a match winner.
Yeah, he really is. I'm quite tempted by João Cancelo when he's fit.
I knew you were going to hate that.
I'm not. You know what? Yeah, you guys are going to probably roll your eyes.
How old's Mitro?
Zielinski, apparently, I saw an interview with Matty Cash, and they were asking about going to the Polish national team, and he was like, Lewandowski is obviously insane. He was like, but Zielinski is next level. He was like, this guy can do things on the training ground. I've never seen. I think we recommended him as a potential replacement for someone at Manchester City.
Yeah, Gundogan or something.
Gundogan replacement in the summer. I think what he does for that Napoli side is unbelievable. I think if he's another one that if he played at a bigger team, I think he would be a much bigger name than he is. I'm not saying Napoli aren't a big side, but
yeah, going to get in trouble.
Well, I mean,
my hairdresser
in the historical context of like winning silverware, I think Zielinski is unbelievably talented. So I would put him in almost my top 3 of this list, but I agree with Pat. I think Bruno Fernandes is the best player.
All right, I've been swayed. Cancelo can wait. Right, let's move on to the 30-year-olds. There is, Verratti, Lukaku, Fabinho, Partey, Varane, Rudiger, Oblak, Di Lorenzo, Edison, but it's got to be Kane. I know everyone's going to be like, oh, English bias.
No, it is Harry Kane.
Just Kane.
It's Harry Kane.
Should we move on? Salah, Son, Neymar, Courtois. Weirdly, a lot of great goalkeepers are 31. Yeah. Courtois, Alisson, ter Stegen, Emi Martinez isn't a great goalkeeper, but he is 31. Who are you going for? Salah, Son, Neymar?
Salah.
Currently, it's got to be
Alisson.
Or Alisson, yeah.
But no, it's Salah.
Ooh, Alisson is a good. I mean, I love Son. I think Son is just amazing.
The best footballers don't become goalkeepers. That's my take.
Surely, if you get Salah as a better player than Son, I think.
I've just seen Nick Pope's name in there. I really appreciate that inclusion.
Yeah, another one.
I would go for Salah, but I think Son, some of his technical ability is as good as Salah's in many ways. Like I think some of the things that Son can do, and now we're seeing him as like a straight centre forward. Like a whole different, like his finishing is better than Salah's in my opinion, but Salah's ability to get his goal return is just inarguable. But that's it. It's a good year. It's a good year for football. Good year.
I'm gonna say that Neymar had the best peak out of any of them, even Salah.
That's fair.
Like from the ages of 17 to 25, he was pretty remarkable.
Let's not include Santos in there.
Sure, but like his early days at Barcelona,
he did win the Puskas for a goal.
Yeah, he was pretty good at it. But like his early days at Barcelona,
Giroud has won the Puskas award.
Yeah, good goal.
Luis Enrique, Neymar. Oof.
Yeah, I think peak name. You're right. Like even when he was playing against Bayern Munich for PSG, and when they had like their first big double header clash, some of the things he was doing in that game was just next level.
Yeah. But right now, in best player in the world, probably Salah. That's 31. 32, I think it's quite, well, actually,
easy.
Griezmann, Van Dijk are still kicking around, Mahrez, but it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne.
Griezmann's done some pretty crazy things. Like he was the best player for France at the World Cup this year. I think when they won the Euros, he was the best player for France as well.
Start of this season.
He's was arguably the best player in La Liga last season, and this year he's looking, other than Bellingham, probably to be the best player again. So, and he was bought. I think Griezmann is pushing De Bruyne close, but it is probably De Bruyne. But I don't think Griezmann's historically too far away. Yeah. What do you think about that, Pat? You seem annoyed.
I'd say that all of the players on this list are not as good now as they were at a point in the past. Whereas I'd say that when De Bruyne is fit, he is as good basically as he's ever been, pretty much. Can I just ask a question about who Danilo is? The
Juventus centre back.
My God, that's who I assumed it was. But I was like, is it Danilo Pereira, which is also ludicrous, but in a different way?
Well, not in Forest in the league.
I think this is mad. But Griezmann, I agree, has been very good. But I don't think Griezmann has a claim to having been one of the best in his position ever. Whereas I do think you can make that argument about De Bruyne, you can make it about Van Dijk, you could make it about N'Golo Conte, but you can't make an argument that Conte is amazing now. So I go De Bruyne.
Fair. Right, we're moving on to the guys who are really clinging on. 33. I mean, Gundogan's down here, Immobile, Kroos, Walker, Ben Yedder, Trippier. I'm probably going to go with Kyle Walker.
It's not...
Is it Kroos, though, actually?
It probably is. I mean,
Kieran Trippier. What? Yeah.
Gundogan's been good when he's played, but Kroos, I mean, he did win a treble like a few months ago, Gundogan, as a key player.
Yeah.
I would say that he was the reason they won the league, apart from Arsenal's injuries. He was the guy who got them over the line, right?
Yeah, maybe I was just thinking more of this season.
I'm going to go for Gundogan.
Fair enough.
Tony
Gundogan,
Kroos
right,
is pretty
34. I mean, not a lot
My age.
Muller, Royce, yeah, completely done.
I said to Henry, I'm better than all these guys.
It's probably Thomas Muller.
I'm going to go for Tom.
Tadic.
It's not Thomas Müller. It's Hummels. Hummels is a more important player at this point in time for Borussia Dortmund.
Does that mean he's better though?
I think he's better. Thomas Müller at this point in time is finished as a top level player.
Royce is
chipping in with like 10 goals.
Royce is playing like. Even Mkhitaryan is making more of an impact than Thomas Müller at this point, respectively, in his club career. Like Mkhitaryan, his regeneration at Inter Milan has been staggering for what was technically an embarrassing transfer at the time when they picked him up for 1.5 million. Everyone's like, why are you doing that? Like Mkhitaryan has had a remarkable sort of resurgence. However, I think Hummels. I think like Hummels
the best players.
I think Hummels is better than Thomas Müller.
It's really old.
I think Hummels. Do you know?
No, I'm going to look this up because I'm really annoyed by this list. But I think you're right about Mkhitaryan. I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to look this up.
So you're going to go for Mkhitaryan?
No, I'm going to go for Mats Hummels.
I just think that's mental over Royce and Thomas Müller.
Royce, maybe, not Thomas Müller. Like, Thomas Müller is not...
Barely playing, but when he plays, oof.
He's not... I don't think he's done that much. Have you watched him run? Have you watched him run recently?
He's always been weird at running. Have you seen...
Alexis Sanchez.
No.
Aubameyang. Gareth Bale. Carlos Vela.
It is difficult.
This is terrible.
Right, let's move on to the 35-year-olds. There's just 3 on the list. Lewandowski, Benzema, Di Maria. We're giving it to Lewandowski.
Well...
It's unfair because...
Don't say Di Maria.
You can't say
I'm not
Benzema.
going to say Di Maria.
Good, you better not.
We don't know. I mean, is Benzema playing? I mean...
Yeah, because he's playing in Europe. Still probably Lewandowski. But, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I think it has to be Lewandowski on that one. Guys, that is our rundown of all the best players at every age. Wow. That was a lot of fun, I think. But yes, a little bit of disagreeing at different points as well. Let's move on to our big match predictions. Right, we're moving on to big match predictions. Just to quickly review what happened last week. Wolfsburg versus Bayer Leverkusen. We all predicted a Leverkusen win, but no one got the 2-1 result spot on, so that's 1 point to all of us. Milan versus Juventus. I went 1-1. McCubs went 1-0 to Milan. Henry went 3-1 to Milan. It was 1-0 to Juventus, although Malik Thiaw did get sent off, so it was a little bit of a dead game in the end. No points to any of us. Barcelona versus Athletic Club. Henry went 1-1. I went 2-1 to Barcelona. McCubs went 1-0 to Barcelona, which was a perfect score, so 3 points to him, 1 to me. That means the scores are as follows. McCubbin's on 18, I'm on 14, Henry work to do on 8. But the game we are kicking off with is a game that Patrice Van Straten's been having a look at. El Clasico, Saturday, 3:15pm. Weird time for an El Clasico, must be to do with drinking or something. Third versus first, 1 point between them. Pat, what are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one, isn't it? Because they're separated at the moment by Girona in Spain. And also it's kind of strange because Barcelona are the ones in third, whereas I would say that domestically Barcelona have played to a much higher standard than Real Madrid so far this season. Real Madrid kind of look... I guess if you looked at the shape of their off-season, you might maybe expect this. Mm-hmm. They are a little bit uninspired because they're so heavy on midfielders. They're very heavy on game control. But their attack isn't as good as Barca's. Actually, the defence hasn't been quite as good as Barca's. But they are much better, I would say, overall at controlling games and not getting themselves into unnecessary scrapes. Coming into this match, though, off a very unimpressive performance in the Champions League against Braga, where I think it was 0.7, 0.6 on XG each, and really a bit of magic got them out of it. I don't know, Barcelona somehow do this domestically. Like, you watch them in Europe and they don't look special at all, but domestically they just manage to beat up on little Spanish sides. And I think it's partially because how aggressive they are. So they have the lowest passes per defensive action in the league, so they're disrupting opponents' possession the most often of any Spanish side. Real Madrid, by comparison, are near the bottom. Really? Barcelona are one of the most aggressive sides for making tackles in the final third. Real Madrid are rock bottom of La Liga by that metric. So Real Madrid are actually much more of a sit deep, stop anything stupid happening, and one of our great players will do something magical, which actually might suit them quite well in this game, because if Barcelona come out at them, really try and control the match, which you imagine they will try and do it at the Camp Nou, there is going to be space in behind, and that's an opportunity for obviously the incredible wingers, obviously somebody like Bellingham or Valverde as well, to run into space and cause them serious problems. Danger men, pretty obvious. Lewandowski, 8 goals and assists in La Liga so far, but obviously Joao Felix as well.
Yeah.
He's only got 3 goals.
Lewandowski's out of this one as well.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Well, Joao Felix, it might be an interesting opportunity for him to show what he can do then, because only 3 goal involvements so far, but his underlying numbers have been like 0.8 expected goals and assists per 90, which is obviously like Lewandowski level. On the other side, Bellingham, clear standout player, 10 goal involvements in the league, but also Joselu has had 7 so far. Like really, really impressive performance for him.
I said it. He's just give him the ball and he will score.
Yeah, he's a classic. Like put him in the box. Like Real Madrid have had some success with these guys. You know, like actually yesterday against Arsenal, Mariano Diaz came on for Sevilla, and when he was there, if you put him on the pitch, he would just get shots in the box and score goals. And that's kind of what Joselu does. I think, in a way, this is like a crap version of the kind of Guardiola Mourinho years. It's like one side is going to try and play like positive possession football and press, and one side is going to try and sit deep and hit on the break. But I think Real Madrid are very, very good, and I think Barcelona are significantly worse than the best Barcelona sides that tried to play this way. I'm inclined to give it to Real Madrid, just because I think that Real Madrid have less like disaster potential.
Yeah.
Like their game plan is essentially conservative, whereas Barcelona's is not, and that means that if something goes wrong with it, something really, really bad could happen. I just think Real Madrid just have a little bit of magic that helps them sometimes in these big games, and so I'm going to go maybe 2-1 Real.
Fair enough. I mean, Barca do have a big injury issue.
Sure.
Koundé's out, Frenkie de Jong's out, Pedri's out, Lewandowski's out. But they have won 3 of their last 4 games against Real Madrid. It's a really difficult one. I don't think either side are particularly entertaining this season, to be totally honest. But yeah, on the basis that Real Madrid have fewer injuries, I might give it to them, and they've got a stronger bench, I think, at the moment as well, which should tell.
Ceballos.
Yeah, I might actually just go 1-0 to Real Madrid. Henry?
It's a bit of a caveat, but I know Pat introduced me to using the analyst as a great source of information. I really recommend everyone use the analyst.
The analyst.
The graphs they do are wicked, and like listening to the things we were just saying about them. I was looking at Ligue 1 the other day, and like the second bottom team, Clermont-Foot, are one of the most dominant spatial teams. Like normally a relegation side is just red, but these guys are like pushing other teams to the end of their box, like their shot levels, and it's crazy. They only scored 7 times in a second bottom, and I was just like, I wonder what Pat would have thought of this when I was looking at that, like the curious case of Clermont-Foot. But anyway, that's a complete caveat. I just thought it was really interesting hearing like how Pat like breaks down the information that he reads from that website and other observations. But in this game, I'm going to just give it 1-0 to Real Madrid. I think that Barca weren't overly convincing against Athletic Club. I thought Athletic could have stolen a draw in that match. And yeah, I just think Real Madrid have a funny knack of like just grinding out results from time to time. So on this occasion, I'm going to give it 1-0. But I don't think it's the most thrilling El Clasico we've ever seen.
No, we're all backing Real Madrid then. Interesting.
Athletic Club, though, while I'm here, can I get some European expertise in Athletic Club? Like, what do you think their ceiling is this season? Because you were talking about Nico Williams earlier. It does feel like they've got a bit of a special crop of players once again.
Yeah, those do.
And I think there's scope to be optimistic about them this season.
Yeah.
I absolutely do, and I think the fact that Valverde's been back there for a while now as coach, I think he's really imprinted I thought he was really underrated from his time at Barcelona. Yeah, I think that they could be. The problem is teams like Real Sociedad have come on really strong this season. There are other guys beginning to peak a little bit too, like
Valencia
Betis
playing a lot better this year.
Valencia, Betis aren't going away, so I think Bilbao should be looking to get into at least the Europa League spots. And you never know, they have a knack of winning or getting to finals of cup competitions too, so it's definitely on the cards.
Yeah, check out Oyen Sunset as well. That's really, really exciting. Right, let's move on to Napoli versus Milan. There's actually loads of good games in Serie A this weekend. I could have picked Inter Roma as well. Probably should have actually, but anyway, Sunday 7:45pm is Napoli versus Milan. 4th versus 2nd, 4 points between them, Henry. Milan play PSG tonight as we film this, so they might, they've got a day less to recover. How do you see this game?
That's interesting. I can't believe Rudy Garcia is still there. I mean, the president literally came out and said, I'm not getting on with my manager. He wasn't my first choice. I wanted Motta. I wanted Luis Enrique. But look at what Enrique's doing at PSG. I've got Rudy Garcia. Maybe it was a mistake. He doesn't understand Italian football. And yet he's still there. And actually, to their credit...
Conte said no.
Yeah, and I was reading that apparently he's just alienated all the top players. He basically told everyone they weren't that everyone was droppable, which in most clubs seems like not a bad idea, but because Napoli's identity last year was very emotional, and it was a very typical of the Naples area. And I think a lot of the big players couldn't believe the idea that they'd be dropped, and the tactics when things weren't going the way that they were under Spalletti. It was almost too linked to romanticism, that side, that they were able to struggle to come back to a more pragmatic manager, which is what Rudy Garcia is. To his credit, they did beat Sassuolo last week? Verona last week. Kavica is back looking unplayable again. I think he's going to go through these patches for a while. So yeah, they've got a real weapon going forward, and they got the win in the Champions League away on the road at Braga.
Union Berlin.
No easy place to go. That's quite a professional victory that they went and got there. So they are grinding out results again, back in 4th spot. And this is big though, because if they lose the match, there's 6 points between the two to AC Milan. Milan, on the other hand,
seven.
Okay, there'll be a 7. Yeah, there'll be 6 points between the two if they lose. They won't want that buffer. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it to Napoli on this one. I think Milan are gonna have a hard game at the Parc des Princes. I think Napoli could catch them cold. So I'm gonna go for 2-1. Okay. They're due a big win.
Nice, Pat.
I don't think Milan's underlying numbers have been very good this season. Before the season, I was pretty bullish on Milan. I thought that I wouldn't have said they were favourites, but I said they had a really good shot at winning the league. And obviously, they do have that shot at winning the league. But I think they need to improve if they want to maintain their position. I think that they've been pretty uninspired so far. And I do still think that there's essentially, I feel, one game changer at Milan, and there are at least 2 at Napoli. I also think the Osimhen thing hasn't helped Rudy Garcia, but I hate Rudy Garcia. I think he's terrible. So I would love to see Potter go there. I think the idea of Graham Potter, heavily linked with Napoli, turning up in Napoli is so funny to me. He'll be so reserved and polite to everyone, and they'll be this is the most insane football city on the face of the planet. And, Graham Potter will just be talking to people about, I don't know, how they should put their money in savings or something.
Imagine De Laurentiis taking Potter out for some fancy meal.
I would love it.
They would have nothing to talk about, those two.
I would absolutely love it. It'd be amazing. I don't know, maybe it would really bring Potter out of himself. And after a year there, he'd do a McLaren and he'd just be
well, do you not remember that interview you did for Chelsea? They're can you win the Champions League? He was yeah, we're going to F him win it.
Why not?
Come on, come on.
It had super kind of Rishi Sunak energy to it. But it's but likeable, because Graham Potter actually is likeable and competent.
Just on Milan, at least they've got Pulisic, Leao and Giroud all contributing at the moment. I think they've got they've got 11 goals and 7 assists between them this season as a trio, which is what you'd want to see from that forward line.
Yeah. I think Napoli are playing below their best, but their underlying numbers are still better. I still think they're better.
Have we done scores? What do you?
But it's Serie A. It's always lunatic nonsense.
I went 2-1 to Napoli.
I'll go 2-1 Napoli as well.
I like Tajani Reinders.
He's cool.
In midfield for Milan. I feel like they've upped their technical level in that midfield a fair bit. Also, fair play for selling Tonali for that amount of money when they must have known that ban was coming as well. They really rinsed Newcastle, although I do feel sorry for him if he does have a gambling addiction. I am going to go 1-1.
Real mood change.
I'm going to go... Yeah, it is. I mean, you've got to say it. It's sad. I'm going to go 1-1 Napoli-Milan. Yeah, I don't think either side are playing particularly well at the moment. Right, let's move on to Marseille versus Lyon. Sunday, 7:45pm, 8th versus 18th. 9 points between them. These two teams are managed by Gennaro Gattuso and Fabio Grosso. What is going on that Marseille and Lyon are managed by those clubs, by those managers?
I don't know, I feel like Gattuso for Marseille makes a lot of sense.
I mean, he's won one of his 4 games in charge. it was almost like Marcelino was probably a better shout for the entire season. They drew 0-0 against Toulouse and then they turf him out. Like Marseille fans just need to get it together.
The fans.
The fans like made it impossible for him to stay. I just think that was so stupid. And yeah, their attack isn't really working. Ismail Assar and Vitinha are the only two players to score more than one league goal, I believe.
They spent a lot of money on Vitinha as well. Like,
I mean, you think it's going badly at Marseille. Lyon, bottom of the league. 0 wins from 9. Only Lorient have conceded more than their 18 league goals. They've got the worst goal difference in the league. They lost to Clermont Foot 2-1 at the weekend.
Good team.
They finished 7th last year. They won 7 of their final 10 league games. And yeah, they lost a lot of players in the summer and they've lost a lot of players throughout their time there. But to be bottom of Ligue 1 for Lyon, it's abysmal.
But also, didn't Fabio Grosso, like he said, the person who's been leaking information to the papers needs to confess, and then no one confessed, so he cancelled training.
Yeah, they don't need training. They're obviously playing so well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, what's the path for this to improve?
At least make them run. At least make them do like.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, have you never seen like a mafia movie? You need to leak different information to everybody, and then see which one shows up in the papers, and then you can be like,
you're out.
And then you can be like, it's you, Ryan Shirky, you little pain in the ass.
It's mental. They made a net profit of £77 million in the summer. You shouldn't do that in France. Like that's nuts. They just weren't investing enough in their squad. It's been a disaster under their new American owner. Textor. They lost Lukuba, they lost Barcola, but Aouar, Dembele leaving. It's pretty grim at Lyon.
Why do Marseille have a player called Vitinha though? Like, I do think we need to get all the Lusophone countries together, all the Portuguese-speaking countries together, and say, guys, can we come up with a naming system that lets us actually know who people are?
Yeah.
Because there are 3 surnames and 4 first names in those countries, and everyone's called like Fabio Silva, Bernardo Fernandez. These are like literally all the same guy. There is 6 Vitinhas.
Yeah. I saw that Traoré is now the most popular surname in the Premier League.
Sure, that makes sense.
Which is mental. Well, I don't know what. Yeah, there's not that many Smiths or anything.
This episode started with Pat saying how informative it was and how it's a really interesting show, and it's just been entirely unhinged.
In my defence, I said when it's you two in the cover.
We missed our anchor.
This has been the most like machine gun episode of this I've been involved in.
Yeah, it's been quite random. But in terms of this game, let's get back on track quickly. Lyon have been rubbish. I'm going Marseille 2-0. Henry?
Yeah, I think they could get absolutely thumped here. I'm going to go for 4-0.
4-0.
In fact, I'm going to go for the bonus point. I want 4-1. I want 4-1 to Marseille. I think they're not actually doing that badly in the league. Gattuso is a better manager than Grosso, who was at Frosinone before. Like, fair enough.
Did he get them promoted?
Got them promoted from Serie B, and now he's gone to take on an absolute mammoth of a job at Lyon.
Did he play for Lyon, Grosso? I feel like he might have. Anyway.
It's not looking good. I'm going to go 4-1, big win.
Okay, Pat, do you see any hope?
No. I don't know. Like Lyon are such a basket. When you have a basket case club like this, something can just happen where like suddenly the mood breaks and everyone's like, "Come on, guys! Like this is actually one of Europe's great football clubs, and we're embarrassing ourselves." It's possible. I don't think it's likely in like the next 4 days. So I will probably go Marseille, and it's at Marseille as well, which is never an easy place to go. Certainly not if you're from Lyon. So I don't know. I think this is going to be catastrophe. I think this is going to be a disaster.
Quel score?
Quel score?
Yeah.
Did I not say? I thought it was a 3-0.
3-0. Okay. Henry, did you have something to say? You look like you were on the edge of it.
You're right. Like, if Lyon just break free of this horror show they're in, they still have enough quality in that squad to not be relegated from Ligue 1. Like, they should be mid-table at least. It's ridiculous what's happening.
It'd be funny if they get relegated though.
Yeah, it would be. I think that by expected points they should be higher. They've been a little bit unlucky, but yeah, it's been chaotic to say the least. Guys, that has been. I mean, speaking of chaotic, Continental Club's been pretty chaotic, but that's the end of it. That's the final Continental Club you'll ever see Patrick van Straten on.
Maybe me after that. I'm exhausted.
Henry is knackered. We're all knackered. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed us picking the best player at every single age on our big match predictions. If you enjoyed the show, let us know what you guys would want to see us cover next week on the show in the comments. And we'll catch you later in the week. Bye.